Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of Level 1 Adventuring. I see Ailing in the chat, I see Stella in the chat. Thank you both for being here. Thank you one and all. If you are a returning viewer, you know that my love and my heart goes out to you. You are the lifeblood that runneth through the veins of Level 1 Adventuring. Ecstasy K! Excellent! Good to see you too. If you are a new viewer, hey, why don't you stick around for a while? We got some fun things in store for you. Who am I to be inviting you to this stream of streams? I'm your host and dungeon master, Wolfe Scott. I am a voice actor, an actor, a ttrpg enthusiast. I run this channel and stream. What do? We run a bunch of different role-playing game content. That can be anything from video game-based RPGs, like Solasta, which we run usually once a week, or it can be tabletop role-playing games, such as our ongoing D&D nights, which are usually Wednesdays, which is tonight, but that all depends on the head count. Or, more excitingly, sometimes, I feel, we run indie RPGs and solo RPGs, which is a really cool space to kind of be exploring for me personally, which is what we're going to be doing tonight. Shout out to all the things I have to remember. Tabletop Audio for providing the music that you'll be hearing being spooky in the background, because that's always great to get some free tunage. Thank you to Streamlabs and StreamSpell for all of the nifty visual elements that you're seeing on the stream, and if you'd like to get some for yourself, we have an affiliate link down below in the description box, which you can use for yourself. And if you haven't followed us in all the things, I would like to say I'm very excited. We actually broke our recent follower goal on Twitch. We were sitting at 120. We broke that. Now we're shooting for 130, and we're already at 125. So we're already, like, look at us, speeding, zooming right ahead. People really like us. And also on our YouTube, we almost have broken 100 followers there. Loki says, get emotional attachment to fictional characters, especially one-time nods. That too. Exactly, yeah. We're gonna meet a lot of characters who show up for like a scene or two that everyone will fixate on. It's a great time. One-time NPCs, yeah, exactly, before they get written off. Yeah, the YouTube's sitting at 90 followers right now, which is great. That is almost 1/10 of the 1,000 follower requirement, so look at us go. But anyway, Stella says, happy to hear you, excited to see what you get up to. Didn't get a chance to congratulate you on those goals. Well, you don't have to worry about, I just announced them now, they're new. Oh, I should say something that I'm holding a tennis ball, by the way. I've just realized it was on my desk. Yeah, we're gonna play Super Mario Tennis is actually what we're doing tonight. Another thing that I should mention, which was really cool that happened recently, was the game that we are playing tonight, which is Firelights by FariRPGs, which I will pull up all of the stuff for in a moment, and I'm actually just realizing that I don't have the rules up yet. There we go, okay. Now I have the rules up, but you can't see, it's my secret. Some really cool things happened. The cat in the background is, Pipey! There she is. That's Baby. That's Piper. She looks like she's creeping in front of my computer right now. I tried to play with her earlier with her little, like, teaser wand to try and tucker her out. So we'll see. We'll see if that holds true. I'm gonna put me in performance mode because I'm too tempted to look at my own face. But the interesting things that have happened for the stream lately. This very role-playing game, which we'll be playing today, Firelights, we actually also meant to say happy to be here. That's what I get for typing right away from just waking up. Oh, you just woke up. Lucky. Well, actually, I don't know. Maybe you took a nap. Maybe you haven't been up all day like I have. You know, it is like such a test of will sometimes to like get off of work at 6 and then be like, I'm gonna stream, but then I do it, and then I always feel better when I do it. But I did take a nap midday to prepare myself for this moment. And yes, cat parent life Piper, best thing that's ever happened to me, even though she doesn't care that I'm pointing at her right now. She's actually found a new favorite spot underneath my desk because I didn't realize it. Some of my foam paneling fell off of my wall from like voice acting like padding. So I just threw it underneath my desk on top of like my filing cabinet. I was like, I'll fix that later. Now she uses it like a little bed. And it's really cute. So I gotta get her like an actual... I have to get her like an actual cat bed to put on there and not have her sleep on voice insulation. You know, she deserves it. She deserves the finer things in life. That after work nap is so tempting, says Loki. I know. I take at least probably... Well, I mean, I work from home, so sometimes it's a midday nap, you know, as if I have like an hour to myself. But yeah, I mean, I wake up far too early to not justify taking a nap, and I usually stay up far too late to not justify taking a nap. I have bad sleeping habits, is the moral of the story. But interesting things that have happened for the stream in accordance to Firelights, the RPG that we'll be playing tonight. So some of you may know RPD, the author of Firelights, linked us to their landing page on the Firelights itch.io page. So if you buy the game for $6, so it's a steal, you'll actually see our playthrough linked on that page, which is really cool. And that's been around for a little while, but very more expandingly, right? Everything builds off of each other. Very cool. Firelights was just featured on an article in The Soloist, which is a zine, I believe. And they covered the game, and they had like a little interview with RPD, and then also they linked our playthrough as well on the article. So very cool that we're sort of being used as a play example for the game on such a broad scale, and I'm very happy about that. So thank you everyone who has been involved with helping our playthrough get more eyes. You know, every little bit helps, and I'm very like excited to be building these relationships with these authors. I want to try my hand at designing. Oh, Joe, Passive Spy, woo, welcome. I want to try my hand at game design one day, like seeing how elegant and like simplified but evocative Firelights is. I'm like very tempted to try something myself. I have some ideas, but we'll see. We'll see. I'm not gonna push it just yet, you know. But I'm interested. I think that is a natural progression for me as a game master and a stream leader and like a fantasy enjoyer and writer. Sometimes like making a system seems like it's on my trajectory, but we'll see. I'm just checking up with chat here. For the best before she gets used to it, like my boy Toko has. Cat doesn't want the cat bed, he wants audio panels. Aww. Wait, is that your cat's name, Toko? Stella, that's a really cute cat name. It stands for testament of how good of a job you're doing. Well, I hope so. It's so strange creating content like this. Sometimes it feels like a vacuum, and then one day, you know, 5 people flood the chat and watch an indie RPG, and you know, it all makes sense. It comes full circle. So I hope everyone is enjoying it and sees the work and enjoys the work. But I think what I will do is now flip over to Soul. Just make sure nothing is broken. Perfect. I was really nervous yesterday. I was gonna stream actually yesterday, and we were gonna get 3 streams this week, but I got this weird error that was telling me that my Twitch wasn't connected or something. And so then I sent a message over to their support team, and they were like, yeah, everyone's getting this error. We don't really know why yet. Just click go live and it should work. And I said, okay. So hopefully everything is working fine. But yes, let us see where we last left off, because last session was kind of involved. Last session had a lot going on for it. And by the way, if you've not seen us play Firelights yet, this is it. 2-page PDF, 3, like a trifold situation, just 6 little nodules here. That is the game, which seems surprisingly simple, but it is very deep when it comes to the storytelling potential, testament to RPD's work in this space. But yes, let's pull up our... So for those of you who are not familiar with our game so far, this is Last Wish. This is our Firelight. In the context of the game, Firelights are sort of spiritual beings that usher souls to the other side, help them rest. At least they did at one point until they all sort of mysteriously vanished, and we are the last one, and now the spirit world is vexed by these cursed monsters that are preying upon the spirits and not allowing them to pass. And the beacons, the fires that help lead the dead to their final resting place, have all been extinguished, and it is our job to relight them. That is the point of the game. So this is our Firelight. Their name is Last Wish. They're sort of this mantis-like humanoid, as we've described several times. They carry a lantern filled with the beacon's light at its tip. And they have some bioluminescent markings across their body, and they're big, I'd describe them as like fluffy moth-like antennae that also burn like ember firelight when they're reacting to things or feeling certain feels. And they also have this really great red cloak. They kind of consider themselves a hive mind. That's how I'm trying to narrate how Last Wish speaks. But so far as we know, as far as we know, Last Wish is the last of the Firelight, so they're sort of the last in this chain of the hive mind, which is kind of depressing. But I mean, that's sort of the theme, right? It's like starting off from a dark place and hopefully finding a happier one. So throughout the game so far, we've come to terms with a lot of things. We found out that we were the last Firelight. We have sort of been given this divine task by this otherworldly force known as the Protectors to help relight the flames and lead the dead to the other side. We've interacted with a few of the monsters known as the Curses, and we've saved a few souls along the way, and we've lit 2 beacons. We have to light 6 is the main objective of the game. We light 6 beacons, and the path is reforged, and the spirits can pass. We've also interacted with 2 other sort of spiritual entities in this world, one of which are known as, do I have the picture, the Caretakers, which are sort of these ethereal robed beings that help, they help care for the husks of the spirits that are shed once the spirits enter this realm, this veil, if you will. We interacted with them for a little bit. They were protecting one of the beacons, although it was unlit. And we've also interacted with one of these creatures, who in our game we're calling the Collectors. So these like shambling, hulking beings in like a bunch of dark robes, and they have these masks that shift their faces, and they're hiding like 6 hands underneath their robes that are all clutching different trinkets. They're sort of like this neutral arbiter of information and artifact in the world. And so in our last session, to give a brief recap, we were just leaving the caves where the Caretakers were after we shooed away a hollow, which is this thing. Essentially, it's one of the curses, a giant worm-like creature with a gaping maw that has like an endless hunger, right, that just devours spirits and matter alike. We used some magic to sort of shoo it away a couple times and evade it. But as we were leaving the caves and leaving the watchful eye of the Caretakers, we stumbled across one of the Collectors, and we needed to figure out where to go in our path next. I should mention, this is sort of our map. An interesting part of the game is that the map is sort of generated with you as you play using a deck of cards. I'm just realizing, I can't speak. Realizing that we need our dice tool. There we go. Perfect, because we're going to need the dice. So you're going to see that a lot of the gameplay mechanics rely on a deck of cards for both drawing cards, and then they will also create the map as we play. But words. We sort of communed with the Protectors for a moment to find out which path we should take. We realized the path that we should take. But in so doing, we also sort of caught glimpse that the place we were going to, which was known as the Pond of Hope, right? The Pond of Hope, was being besieged by one of the curses, and it was something that we had to do. The Protectors were pretty much telling us that we had to go there to finally get rid of this curse, and we kind of had no idea how to do that because so far all we've done is like ran away from one of them. We managed to defeat one through kind of sheer luck, and the other one we've just been running away from it, but we were being like urged by the Protectors to purge this hollow from the Pond of Hope, and we didn't know why. So we ran across one of the Collectors along the path, and we sort of asked, hey, you know, in Last Wish's sort of wise and sagacious, mysterious voice, we said, does this one know
how do we defeat the Hollow? What secrets do you hold?
And the collectors let us in on a big lore drop for the entire world that we are creating together, right? A huge plot twist, which is that the curses, which are the names of these monsters themselves, are actually spirits. They're not a separate thing. They're not like an alien entity that, attacks the spirits. They themselves are spirits that were somehow corrupted or converted by this dark force, sort of the antithesis, sorry, my words, of the protectors who guide us. There's this other being that exists in the realm, like Heartless, says Loki. Yeah, kinda. Low-key. Yeah, maybe my high school Kingdom Hearts knowledge is seeping back into my in forefront of my mind. There's this otherworldly force note that we've so far heard called the Doom of the Veil. We don't know what it is. We just know it's called the Doom of the Veil. And it has been, over time, corrupting and possessing these spirits, which over time mutate into various different monstrous forms. They in which prey upon the other spirits, and over time that has helped the Doom of the Veil get stronger. And now that the Doom of the Veil has extinguished all of the Firelights, all of the spirits are lost, and either easy prey for the curses or easy targets for the Doom of the Veil to continue to hunt and mutate over time. You can never take the Kingdom Hearts out of the theater, kid. It's a fact, says Stella. You're so right. Also, have I announced while you're on stream that I'm a theater kid, or is it just that obvious? Is the theater kid RPG enthusiast streamer pipeline just far too real? But no, it's very true. When you walk away, you know what I'm saying? But Passive Spy just says "Wah!" I hear that in Waluigi in my mind. Wah! Basically, what do you mean? I didn't know that was a requirement. It's not a requirement, but I think I think there's enough of a noticeable trend. Oh, it's extremely real. I know a kindred spirit when I see one. Stella, the theater kid in me recognizes the theater kid in you. Here and now and forever. So yeah, this is a huge revelation for the world that we're in, and it's also a huge revelation for Last Wish, because Last Wish's charge is to protect spirits and guide them to the other side, but now, they've learned that some of the spirits that they're tasked to protect are, corrupted and actively hunting them, which, certainly complicates things. So we sort of took that as our message from the protectors. This is why we had to confront the Hollow here, because it was sort of our test, can we actually, reconcile this knowledge and use it to help, instead of harm. And so we did. We got into a fight, quote unquote, with the Hollow, mostly just trying to appeal to its innate, its inner self, and we got whipped around and bashed around and thrown about, and we suffered a lot of damage to sort of whittle away at its psyche to get into that soft, gooey core of the vulnerable spirit inside. But eventually we did, and we wore it down enough. It sort of laid down in the pond, and we approached it and we touched it, and its hard exterior cursed shell melted away, and underneath we saw Ailing. I am not surprised that Eat the Goo is at the top of your list here. Eat the goo. Eat the goo. Gummy worm, says Loki. Actually, very accurate. Gummy worm. But yeah, we sort of peeled the spirit out of the Hollow, and we didn't get to interact with them very much, but we at least learned that their name was Anar. The name of the spirit is Anar. And that is about as far as we got. So, yeah, a lot of interesting stuff, learning a lot about new NPCs and characters and lore of the world. So there's going to be a lot to unpack in the session to come. But I'm actually interested here. Okay, so we got the Ace of Clubs and the 5 of Diamonds. Yeah, both of these were from this point. Okay. So, let's see. Let's take inventory of Last Wish right now. Last Wish got whipped around a bunch last game, and the fatigue is actually very high. Actually, we were very lucky to have RP on the in the chat last game, because I didn't know that you could just take a rest whenever you wanted. And they confirmed for me that you can. So I actually wiped all of my previous fatigue before the fight happened, which was instrumental, because had I not done that, we would have passed out or perished, or we would have had to try to resolve the falling asleep portion of the game. But luckily we took a rest. But I think we're going to be in a similar situation this session, because we are actually sitting at the exact same amount of fatigue we were at when we got our face rocked. Before we got our face rocked by the Hollow. So I think what Last Wish is going to do is Last Wish is going to, the last thing I narrated was Last Wish put their hand on the Hollow and sort of sent a pulse of warmth and, the light of the beacon through the carapace of the creature, and it began to melt and shift, and underneath, we sort of burned through all these layers, and we found a spirit buried within. Now, the spirit, we're sort of playing with this idea that the longer that a spirit remains trapped in the veil and they can't find their way home, they sort of deteriorate. They sort of become lesser versions of themselves. They forget themselves. They're driven to, sadness and loss of purpose, and eventually possibly even madness, which makes them very vulnerable targets for the Doom of the Veil, right? And that also reflects physically. So, when we met our first soul, Kisara, the thief, she was kind of spectral, but when we got closer to her, when she was in the light of the fire, she looked more human, and that's because, in my mind, Kisara still had very much a sense of self, right? The reason she could not pass is because she was so determined to realize whether or not she had redeemed herself in death, before the moment of her passing. So she was fighting against something that was keeping her mortal to she obviously was not mortal, she wasn't alive anymore, but it was keeping her mortal sensibility together, right? It was kind of keeping her psyche unfractured. But I think as spirits themselves in this world are plagued by the curses and the doom of the veil, and they're lost and they lose their purpose, ultimate denial, says Loki. Hey, we got her there. Ultimate denial, but we got her there. I think that will also show in their countenance, right? So they do look more spectral. They almost kind of become featureless. You know what I mean? They just sort of look like these withered, sort of pale, partially translucent. They almost look as though they're becoming part of the mists that constantly drape across this world, as if given enough time, they will essentially become entirely intangible and just fade away into the smoke and become nothing, So that is sort of like if they don't become corrupted first, right? So I think when we melt through the carapace of the Hollow and we put our hand on the shoulder of the spirit, what we're touching or interacting with, because I don't even know if we can fully get our hand on it, it might be this thing where we almost put our hand through it, but we can vaguely feel a tangible presence there, is almost this withered, leathery, pale form. And as it turns its head and looks at us, much of its features are kind of weathered away, almost like the statues. We've described a bunch of the statues that we've seen in this world bearing a mortal form, but because of either time weathering them away or, the falling away of the land, that the features kind of melt away, and they sort of are just these sort of vague canvases that resemble humanity. And I think that is what happens with the spirits as well, right? So when we put our hand on or in this form, it tilts its head towards us, and we can't really get any defining features of it. It's almost like we're looking back into these like hollow sockets. We don't even see eyes. It's just sort of staring through us, more at us, you know. And, you know, Last Wish lowers the flame down, lowers the staff down to sort of get a better look at the being. And I think it is the firelight, once again, just like Kasara, once the warmth of the light washes over the being's face, then, and it begins to realize that it is not trapped within the prison of the hollow form, and it has like a bit of its senses kind of recollected. Perhaps we start to get the faint shadows of form to the face, and a discernible countenance, you know. And that's when Last Wish will sort of dip down and say,
Tell me, tell this one, spirit, what is your name?
And that is when the spirit will, you know, look at us sort of pathetically, wretchedly, and with sort of confusion in its face, as if trying to recollect a word that is long forgotten, which in practice is more so the reality. I am Anar. I believe I once was. As it like looks back down towards the pond of hope, which we described. The destined death. There's only so long that a soul can endure before it loses senses and concept of self-sustain. Exactly. Yes, that is definitely the feeling that I want to play with these spirits. We'll see how it plays out. And we'll see that we described the Pond of Hope as this sort of constructed water feature that had all of these statues that looked like they were praying to a central figure, which was reaching upward towards the stars, and within its palms was almost like a floating constellation, right? Because I think in this world, you know, the idea of fate and communing with a higher power is very important. And our destiny and our threads of fate, you know, and I think the stars and the stories that the stars tell, the constellations of the spirit world, are very important, right? Also firelight, fireflies, stars, right? There's theming. We're doing themes. And so I think the being will like look into the water and sort of like look at its own face for a moment and almost gasp like and like slap the water and like and dart back, and that's when Last Wish, it's just sort of a primal reaction. It almost doesn't recognize itself. And sort of leaps back, and then that's when Last Wish sort of puts an arm on the back of Anar and braces him and says,
Do not turn away from the truth. You must face it to become whole. This one will help you. Do not lose your nerve. You are free now from the doom of the veil, but only you can decide what happens now that you are unshackled.
And I'll sort of give like a gentle nudge toward the water, you know? Not pushing, but encouraging. And I think Anar will sort of tremble, you know, unsure of himself, and will slowly lean forward and take another look into the water, and we'll pause and we'll freeze and just sort of stare at themselves, this sort of half-formed face, this half-formed body. And I think there's sort of like a lurch in the shoulders, you know? It's almost like a sob, but it doesn't have all of the faculties of its body back yet to be able to produce tears. You know, so it's almost like miming. It's almost like mimicking the feeling of crying, and just sort of like look at its hands, like in its face, like through its hands, his hands, and you know, you can just sort of hear murmurings of like, "What has become of me? What is this place?" And you know, Last Wish, you know, continues to put the hand on the shoulder.
We will take all the time needed to ensure that you are ready to move forward from this. Take all the time that you need.
And I think at this point, we've described that when Anar was the Hollow, right, it sort of instinctively wrapped around the pond to guard it from other spirits, whether that be out of a sense of, it was being perverted by the doom of the veil, so it was actively trying to hunt and harm other spirits, or whether some intrinsic part of Anar trapped within the Hollow knew that being close to the Pond of Hope brought it some form of solace, that was like being reenacted throughout the spirit, was being made manifest through its body. We don't know. And perhaps Anar doesn't know either. Anar did not have their full mind about them when this was all going on. But we did describe that there were other spirits on the edge of the mists that were sort of waiting and wanting to get to the pond, but were unable to because of Anar as the Hollow guarding it. And I think now that, Anar has been restored, for the most part, to its natural spirit form, I think from the mist we start seeing some of these spirits, these sort of malformed, not entirely cohesive, like misty spirits, begin to wander closer in from the edges of the mist and get closer to the pond. And Last Wish stands and looks towards the rest of the spirits approaching, and you can see that there's attentiveness to them. I don't think, maybe intrinsically they kind of know what a firelight is, but once again, their minds have been eroded for quite some time, and so it's almost just like instinctual, like this thing just defeated the being that was gobbling us in droves. Like, should we be fearful? Is this like a prey-predator situation? But I think Last Wish, sort of leans the staff like towards the spirits and then over towards the pond, as if like, demonstrating like, you are invited, like I'm guiding you into this direction, and like holds a hand up and says, "Spirits of the Veil, this one is known as Last Wish, the final firelight, messenger of the protectors. This one has come to ensure that you can find the rest and peace you deserve. All of you, kith and kin, will have a chance to be saved. Come. This one means you no harm," as like I gesture down towards Anar. "Come, do what you have wished to do in the waters, the starlit waters. Nothing can harm you here, not now. Not as long as I stand." And then there's sort of like a meandering knowledge. Perhaps they don't understand the poetry of Last Wish's words, but they certainly feel the sentiment. And they will slowly begin to congregate. And I think what happens is they come to the edge of the water, and almost as if they are replicating some of the prayerful gestures of the statues that are built around the pond, right? They take some of those devout postures, and some of them will look into the water and they will take handfuls of it and they'll sort of splash it on their face and like wipe it down their necks and their body. It's almost like this ritual, right? And perhaps it is an entirely unconscious ritual, something that is just because they are spirits in a state of crisis. They know to come here and do this. But as they are doing this, we begin to see, like, as the water splashes them and they pray and they look towards the stars, and the constellations, like, shift and create new patterns across the water, which they're splashing across their face. They're sort of reconnecting with their threads of destiny again. They're using the stars to help them find right alignment out of their wayward state. And I think that, in combination of these, like, the ritual cleansing of themselves in the water, begins to wipe away some of that loss of self. And you begin to see them become more corporeal, for lack of a better word, more of their features begin to manifest across their bodies. And seeing this, I think Last Wish, clocks it and looks towards Anar, who is still kind of beside himself and emulating the sob at the water's edge, and will crouch down and will place their scaled hand into the water and sort of take a small palm of the water, which is reflecting the starlight on its surface, and tilt its head over towards Anar.
If this one would have your permission, I believe it has a way to help.
And Anar, sort of taken aback from the trance of sorrow that he was placed in, and I think sort of just gazes over at Last Wish and doesn't really express anything verbally, but just in the posture, and there's a sort of this gentle and slow rocking sort of nod. The closest thing it can approximate to a permissive gesture in this moment of duress. And what Last Wish will do, we've kind of narrated a couple times that when Last Wish releases the grasp on their staff, it just sort of levitates next to them. It knows to remain erect and lit. It's its charge. And so Last Wish will release their grasp on the staff and pull their hands into the water, two hands, and just sort of open it on top of Anar's head and let the water rush over. And I think Anar at first flinches, right? Because we've described that the hollows, or the curses themselves, are sort of fearful of the natural elements, even though they're more supernatural when it comes to the veil. They fear the fire, the beacon fire. They fear the water because the water holds emotions and memories of the spirit world. So I think there's a part of Anar that flinches, almost as if it's expecting to feel the acidic touch of the water from when it was a curse, But instead, it is just this supremely relaxing, this restorative, this curative experience. It's a spirit being reconnected with a part of the spirit world, a part of hope, right? Being the threads of destiny once again, and the water rushes down, and Last Wish just takes a hand and pushes some of the mist that makes up its hair back, and as Last Wish does that, some of the strands of mist begin to form into actual, almost something akin to hair, almost as if this ritual bath of sorts is reconnecting them with their former selves. And Last Wish at this whole time is just taking another scoop of water and treating this as if it is religious ceremony, almost like a baptism, now that I'm thinking about it in a weird way. But you know what I mean. Not with the strong religious overtones, but with the devout adoration that a firelight has for a spirit. Drapes the water, and just maybe even chirps the song that it learned from Purification, says Loki. Exactly. It might even chirp the song that it learned from the caretakers during that water ritual, right? When Last Wish helped pull the husks, the porcelain husks of the fallen souls out of the water, might even chirp that, as if recollecting that experience. And more as that continues, I think we finally get to see Anar have a fully formed sense of self, right? And so I'm going to treat this as a couple of things. Number one, I'm going to treat this as a moment where Last Wish is taking another rest, because we desperately need one. So as Last Wish is helping Anar reconnect with themselves and, heal, I can imagine a soft chirp of cicadas, a small song of purification. Exactly, Stella. It is more insectoid, right? It's not Last Wish's vocal cords, the more human expression of its voice. It definitely clicks into that more insect portion of their physiology, So I think we're going to take a moment to heal our fatigue, because we're going to need to. Now, when we do that, we normally to fill your entry book, shuffle the cards you discarded, but we haven't really taken any actions since starting this day. And the only card that I really pulled aside was the Joker, so I don't think we're gonna shuffle, because that will just mean I have to recreate the whole map, and we haven't pulled anything, so we're gonna keep it there for now. But it does mean that Last Wish has their full fatigue restored, so they'll be able to adventure with newfound vigor. And on top of that, I'd say by the end of this ritual, we finally get a full picture of who Anar is. So I actually pulled up an NPC generator earlier. And I actually want to use a bit of the tables that we have here. So let's see, who is Anar? You know, here's the $1 million question. Who's Anar? I'm gonna roll 2d6. Wow, and I got 2d6. 2d6 off of 6. They're a tracker. Ooh, that's interesting. Ooh, okay. Okay, so they're a tracker. I'm gonna make a note here. Anar the tracker. Interesting. Anar the tracker. And what else do we got here? From this little NPC generator that I have, we have a humanoid form. Anar, from what we see, has sort of short, curly blonde hair and gray eyes. At least as far as their spirit form sort of allows us to detect, right? It might still be somewhat incorporeal, but that's what we can see. Has sort of rugged golden skin. Has a tall and heavy-set build. Ooh, tracker, buff boy. Has an edgy, and this is extremely creepy face. I'm gonna say it has like instead of creepy, I'm gonna say they have edgy features with sort of like, that 1,000-yard stare, because they're still very much trying to reconcile the fact that they were inside, or they were this being, and they have an unfinished piercing in the ear. I'm gonna say this looks like it was torn out. They're a tracker, right? So maybe they had an earring, and they in life were hunting some sort of some being, and then like the ring got like pulled out. And that's a coinky dink. The region attached to that was hollow as well. Yeah. I think in the fiction, I think the first hollow that we found might have been Anar. Maybe he was hunting us. He was hunting us. Oh, because he was a tracker. Makes perfect sense now. Better than a septum being ripped out, says Loki. Yes. Yeah, maybe that's interesting. Maybe Anar was hunting us because, that is sort of, in a way, that was Anar's purpose in life. And so as a hollow, this manifested as like a desire to hunt. And as a tool for the Doom of the Veil, it was designed to hunt, especially Firelights. So that's interesting. Okay, so we have it also has some things about personality here. Very calm. Judges by actions and not words. Has lost many friends. Yeah, I agree. Probably has. Okay, so this is Anar in a nutshell. He was tracking his own salvation. Yeah, like found the source of it, right? Found the pond, just didn't know how to do it, and in reality probably couldn't do it without the intervention of a firelight, right? That was sort of a necessity. And so yes, I think after a while we finished the ritual, and Anar, curly blonde hair, these like steely gray eyes, rugged golden skin, tall heavy-set build, with like sharp features, with like an absolutely haunted look in their eyes, with their sort of plucked out piercing, is sort of sitting at the edge of the water, and more of their body has manifested before them. We can see they're maybe wearing some sort of rustic garb, maybe like a shorn cloak, something that a hunter would likely wear when tracking beasts at the edge of the forest outskirts, right? And like once Last Wish sort of finishes the ritual, sort of nods and says,
"Take another look, Anar. Do you recognize yourself now?"
And Anar will lean forward, not without, a moment of caution, because he's already been burned once by his reflection, but leans over and now sees a face that he recognizes. It's still a hard truth. There's still parts of him that feel foreign, and he definitely looks, worse for the word, a little haggard. But, he reaches up and he places his hands upon his face as if like, almost rediscovering his features, his like chin, his cheeks. And, in his, what we've generated very calm demeanor, sort of like gently puts, his hands in his lap and says, "Yes, this is a face I recognize. This is my face." And Last Wish nods and sort of crouches by the edge of the water, sort of watching the other spirits go through their own rituals in the distance.
Good. You're on a journey to repair. It will not be an easy road, but this one will do its best to walk it with you.
I thank you. I don't believe I remember your name.
This one's name is Last Wish, a Firelight, an agent of the Protectors. Do any of those words mean anything to you? Firelight, Protector?
And you can see Anar sort of like stares, tries to like find the words, and like looks up back towards the statue, which is cradling like the ever-shifting motes of starlight, the different constellations like hovering within its grasp. Yes, they are distant. There was a time long ago, if time even matters here, there were firelights, there were great fires, and there were scores of people like me, and we were lost. We saw the fires and we knew where to walk, but the skies were getting dark and the fires were harder to find, and the firelights were disappearing. We didn't know where to go. I didn't know where to go, and He's lost many friends, right? He's a tracker. I tried to lead some of the lost souls. I tried to help them find their way. That is what I knew what to do. That is who I am, who I was. But it didn't matter. No matter where I went, how far I trekked, I couldn't find them salvation. I couldn't find them a place to rest. Without the fires, we were aimless. We were hopeless, and I watched as each one of them drifted. They lost themselves in something I couldn't see. I couldn't feel until, and you can see there's like a flash of recognition in his mind, and Last Wish,
Yes, no. Follow that thought. What?
There was a voice in my mind like smoke, and it whispered to me. It told me that it knew that I was lost, and it would only be a matter of time until I became like them, and it offered me a way to save myself from that fate, but I had to follow it. I had to do as it told me, and I did, and there was a time where my thoughts were my own, but the more I listened to it, the less of me there was to listen to, and then it all goes black. Except for fragmented pieces, there are screams, there are tunnels of darkness, there's hunger, just a never-ending hunger and an ache, and you can see like Anar like even bends over and like holds his stomach as if he still feels that now. You know, even in the spirit form, like being touched as a curse still is somehow a part of him. I hurt people. I hurt others like me. I found them when they were weak, when they were alone, and I did things to them. And like he like there's like a part of him that almost retches if he weren't like a spirit, you know. I ate them? There's like a part of him that like is like hit like that with a brick, you know. And Last Wish immediately like leans forward and like, you know, puts an arm on the you know, clutches the bicep of the now more corporeal form of Anar and says,
"It was not you who did this. It was not your true self, your true body. You were beyond yourself. You cannot blame yourself. Hold yourself responsible for what that being did to you. Do you know why it called to you, why it found you? Why it did to you what it did?"
And to this Anar... would Anar know this? Would Anar... Let me take a look at my rules right here. Get an answer from the Oracle. I'm going to say that it's pretty unlikely that Anar would have this answer, but it's worth a shot, right? And we haven't rolled much dice yet this session, so let's give it a shot. So we can see here, get an answer from the Oracle. We have to use our dice. So every time in this game you want to resolve something that is happening, you grab 2 cards, which I'm going to grab right here. 1, 2. Oh, wow. So I was right. I don't think we're going to learn anything here. So basically then, after you draw your 2 cards, you roll 2 dice, and you try to see if the amount that you roll is higher than the value of the card. Now, queens are worth 12. So I have to beat 12 twice, which I am very much doubting is going to happen. But we are going to give it the old college try. So I'm going to roll 2 cards, 2 dice. 1, 2. Yeah, 8, 0, that is darkness. The answer is no, and, specifically no, and. So Anar, shakes his head, and says, "No, I just think it knew that I would be useful. It told me as much. But that's all. That's all I remember." And Last Wish nods his head again and just sort of pats his arm, and then, you know, cranes back and extends his hand and their hand, and the staff levitates over and just, you know, perfectly sort of encapsulates itself in his grip, and says,
"Thank you for what you do recall. The story of my people and the fate of the other spirits. That information is dear to this one. It is precious. Even with what little you offer is is untold in value. I think it is best now if you rest, and in a few hours' time we will forge ahead. And Anar looks to Last Wish, and says, "Forge ahead? Where? Where do we go? What is... why?" And Last Wish says, "It is my solemn duty to ensure that spirits find their way back to the other side. I have already lit beacons here. I believe I can lead you to the salvation you so desperately deserve. And then, perhaps I can help others. But you are now my charge. This one's charge. And I will see that you're delivered." And Anar sort of dips his head down and sort of grimly stares back at the water. "What makes me deserving of salvation? I was weak. I was used. And I did terrible things, unspeakable things, Firelight. I'm not worth being saved. Just leave me here. If I am meant to find my way out of the Veil, then I suppose that is my fate. But to risk you, after what I've done, it is a disservice." And, should I make a roll for this? Let's confront risk, right? Because the risk is we're gonna lose Anar, right? We're gonna lose him to his wandering depression, you know, his loss of self. So let's grab our cards. Let's flip them. Okay, we don't use jokers. Okay. And then we have to choose our approach with this one. So I'm gonna say once again. Roll for persuasion, says Loki. Yes, something like that. Toddy said, "Did someone say Joker?" Is that your calling card, Toddy? Is that how I know that you've entered the chat? Did somebody say Joker?
So like Last Wish always does, Last Wish is going to approach this situation with great patience. I hope it isn't my calling card, says Toddy. Okay, well then, it's not canon. I will not consider it canon. So because we are using our patient approach, that is +2 to our die rolls. So we're gonna roll 1, 2, 9, 10, 11. So that is higher than both. So that is a full success. Which is great for us considering our current set of circumstances. And so Last Wish bends down towards Anar once again, and extends a hand outward. We'll say it doesn't crouch down quite yet. Stands at his side and extends a hand downward and says, "Anar, this one is the last of the Firelights. Some might say I have already failed in this one's task. All of my brethren are gone. The fires are unlit. Am I worthy to carry this mantle? Is this one worthy to carry this mantle? It does not know. But it has faith. It has faith that it can prove itself worthy of the name, worthy of the task at hand. Without faith, theming as Last Wish looks up towards the stars, right in the pond of hope.
Without hope, this firelight would be lost. Naught but embers. But I continue forward. And because I do, this one does, 2 new fires rage. Is that not proof that faith can become truth if we merely commit and we believe? I believe in you, Anar. I believe that you are worthy of salvation, that you are worthy of rest, that you are worthy of seeing the other side. Will you join me, this one, in that faith?
And I extend my hand further, sort of urging Anar to take it. And with that full success, that the steely gray eyes of Anar sort of flashed with determination as he clasps that meaty palm against Last Wish's more insectoid grasp and pulls himself onto his feet and says, "Even if I didn't, Last Wish, it sounds like you have enough faith for both of us. I will follow you. And I can only hope that I will prove you right." And as Last Wish takes a look down at the ever-dissipating husk of the hollowed form, the worm-like form, which is continuing to splinter off into gas and mist and sort of rejoin the spirit world, something of a smile crawls across Last Wish's mandibles and says, "You've already cast off the curse that afflicted you. As far as this one is concerned, you've already proven yourself. This one need only reward you for it." And there's a sort of a soft smile that comes out of Anar and a nod of the head as they prepare to set forth. Loki says, "Yay, drag that depresso boy out of the muck." I mean, in fairness, I think his sadness is well earned. But yes, we do have to right this cosmic wrong that has befallen Anar. Okay, so now let's take a look at our map. Well, I mean, this is in RPD's words. The design intent of the game is to be Metroidvania-esque, right, where we do backtracking and relocating. So I think it would make sense that instead of trying to push forward into a new part of the map to discover a beacon, that we would revisit a beacon that is already lit, right? That makes sense to me. That's kind of the name of the game. So we are at the Ace of Clubs, which is on our map here, and very luckily, the next beacon is very close by. It's actually just a space back, which is all the face cards are beacons. So I believe that means we can just... Loki redeemed hydrate, thank you. I'm actually very proud of myself today. I have my water nearby. That's not why I'm proud of myself, although usually it is woefully far away. I'm proud of myself in that I am trying to be very cognizant of my water intake and, properly get the hydration that I need throughout the day, especially because I drink too much coffee. And I think this should be the last water bottle that I need to consume today to, hit the recommended daily amount of water that a lad of my size and age should drink. So, I'm cutting right through it. Bye-bye. How's everyone doing? How's everybody is everybody having fun listening to Last Wish try and talk this sad sack? Congrats on proper care, says Loki. I know, it is harder to do than one thinks. But that's self-care, baby. Keeps the wheels turning. Listen, I just had a birthday, okay? I'm 33. I gotta keep hydrated for the water. I gotta do the facial care, the skin care. I'm gonna be smooth like a little baby. It's very relaxing, says Loki. Well, good. We haven't fought any curses yet, so hopefully it'll be relaxing until something terrible happens. Okay, so I don't really know. Looking at the rules here, you sure bet I am. I love our therapy mantis. Oh my god. Last Wish being a therapy mantis is so good. Oh, that's hilarious. That is definitely Last Wish's brand. Super patient, kind of cryptic, but like very helpful. Oh my god, therapy mantis is so good. It's also good to have up while I make your own Firelight OC. Give the deets in the Discord. I want to know. I want to know all about your... Well, I can't say your therapy mantis. Who knows what you'll make? Maybe... I mean, what? You could also be quick or forceful. Maybe you'll be a very impatient millipede. I don't know what your vibe is. We'll find out. but I love therapy mantis. Yeah, therapy mantis is very on brand for for Last Wish. Okay. There's from what I'm seeing in the rule set so far, there's not really something that calls for, like, will an event happen if we go back to an area that we've already been in? Although I think we can probably answer this with some Oracle stuff. Will do. I'm making a lunar moth. That is a really good idea, actually. Very fitting for sort of like the Twilight world, of the spirit realm. Ooh, that's good. Lunar moth is good. I like where your head's at. Okay, so I think, or a bumblebee or a bubblebee. both are cute. Okay, so I think what we can, let's ask the Oracle. Let's ask, is something new happening at our previous beacon, or is everything more or less the same? Says, Loki said Bumble's sorry. You don't have to apologize. Bubblebee is adorable. You've just invented a better type of bee as far as I'm concerned. Would I rather have a bubblebee or a bumblebee? Bubble every time. So Stella says Bumblebee's my beloved. Are you a secret Bumblebee stan? Are you a beekeeper? Okay, let's ask the Oracle. Let's pull up our dice. Oh, and that means I need to pull up my... Well, I guess I'll roll my dice here. And I'm gonna say it's +1, 50% chance if there's something new happening here or not. Not a beekeeper, I just love bugs. I get it. Bugs are sick. Bugs are super sick. Let's grab 2 more cards. Ooh, a 4. Okay. And so +7, so it's higher than both. So there is a new event. Yes, and. So what's the new event that's happening? Let's let the event thing guide our hand. Let's go 1, 2. So we got a 2 and a 6. 2 and a 6. Secure. So the theme of this event is secure. Let's go back to the King of Clubs. I did not take like any notes about the caretakers. I'm gonna have to take a lot when I revisit that scene because a lot happened there. But we're gonna say trip number 1. I'm like all going off of memory from what happened there, but trip number 2. Okay. So the theme of this is secure. I think when I hear secure, and knowing what happened in our last time that we visited the caretakers. So for those of you who weren't here for the caretaker session, the caretakers, they are a spiritual being much like the Firelights, although they have a different task. So the Firelights lead the souls of the bodies to the beacons to help them pass on. The caretakers help inter sort of like husks of the physical body, and they sort of create these like porcelain, almost like mannequins, and they help bury them in these catacombs that are underneath the earth. They look like these ethereal robed beings. But they actually built their sanctuary around one of the beacons, which we helped light. And so essentially it was an underground lake of peace, right? So what this looks like, to help paint this picture if you've not been here for the session, is it's underground, but there's a big hole cut in the ceiling, which water is rushing in from above down into the lake, right? And in the center of that water is the beacon, which is a massive torch, you know, that's on a raised die with like steps, and now the flame is lurching up towards the hole that is cut in the ceiling. And all around this lake are various alcoves that are cut into the stone, where the caretakers, which are sort of these ethereal, for lack of a better word, I don't want to say ghostly because they're not quite ghosts, but they're doing various tasks. Like, they go to the water, actually, and you can see images of the souls resting there, and they help pull portions of the souls up to the surface of the water, which become these porcelain-like plates, which are then handed to other caretakers who assemble the plates into a husk. Then they seal them shut with, like, golden paint. Oh, I was going to look up that term of the Japanese art of painting something with gold to repair it, because that's what I was basing off of their whole practice off of, but I forgot the name of it. And then they swaddle them in, like, a cloth, like this, like, sort of this, like, ghostly cloth, and then they lead them to an alcove where they are buried, right? Buried, for lack of a better term. That is what the caretakers do. That is their purpose in this world. So when I hear secure in this place, knowing what happened last time we were here, wow, now that I think about it, last time we were here, we were fending off the Hollow. The Hollow hunted us here and, like, burst through one of the walls and tried to, like, wreck shit. But the combined might of the new beacon, and the Firelight and the caretakers used, like, our magic to repel the Hollow and, you know, chase them away. Kintsugi! Thank you, Stella. Yes, Kintsugi. I knew it was a K word, but I didn't want to, like, say the wrong word. Yeah, so if you can imagine, that is what the caretakers do. They, like, pull up these husks of porcelain out of, like, the spiritual pool, and then assemble them into, like, a rough approximation of the bodies, and, like, help paint them, and, like, that is, you know, how they help the spirits find rest. Thank you for that term, Kintsugi. But now that, wow, this is wild. So the Hollow that tried to wreck this temple, right, was Anar. If we're following our own fiction, you know, still in the Hollow form before we freed them. So now Anar is being led back to the temple. And so when I hear secure, what I hear is, now I'm getting multiple ideas. Okay, so number one, the first thing that I hear and I see in my mind's eye is, you're welcome. Stella says, you're welcome. I need to remind myself the exact name. I had 3 Japanese art styles in my head. Yeah, I mean, like, I was trying to find the word, but I know there could be so many similar sounding words. I can't say that I'm very knowledgeable about a lot of Japanese art styles, but I guess I was just mixing up a bunch of different words in my head, but thank you for finding the right one. I think part of secure is the caretakers using the magic to help, like, repair the damage that has been done to the temple, right? Like, you can see some of them are, like, I described they sort of do these, like, ritual, sort of, like, flowing, like, dance-like motions. It's where Last Wish learned how to do the song, right? And so I think some of them are doing sort of, like, this ritual dance, which are, like, making the stones levitate and, like, float back into position into, like, where the stones were ruptured when the Hollow appeared. And then, like, and maybe, like, they're, like, moving their fingers in the air, and, like, you can even see golden light appearing, like, in the cracks of the stone, like Kintsugi, to, like, bind the stone back together and, like, fuse into the walls and, like, repair the temple, right? But when I hear secure, I'm also getting another idea, which I'm just gonna go with, and that is, like, you know, Last Wish is approaching the precipice of the like the silk moth threads, but gold. Hey, that's cool. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we described that they had these weird silver needles that like sort of infinitely projected like a golden ink, but it could possibly be like a thread that comes out of the needle as well that like fuses it. You know, could be that as well. Especially if we want to play into these bug themes. But I think we are getting towards, you know, the end of the tunnel, which opens up into the temple, and we see a caretaker standing at the front of the, at the edge of the tunnel, you know? And we approach, you know, Last Wish holds up a hand.
Hail, caretaker. It is I, Last Wish, humble servant. It is this one. Humble servant of protectors, Last Wish. I am here to deliver a spirit.
And you can see that the caretaker looks at Last Wish, and then looks at the spirit, Anar, and then back to Last Wish. And they're sort of like, you know, they're you can't see their faces. You just see the pinprick of golden light, the cycloptic pinpoint of light underneath the hood. And they're just sort of like, they've always been sort of mysterious in their movements, but this feels very stoic, almost like a cold sort of stance. And the caretaker looks at Last Wish, just that pinprick of light, and you can hear sort of like undulating out from underneath the hood. Do you deliver a spirit, or do you deliver a curse? And to this, like, Anar's eyes sort of go wider, because now that I'm hearing secure, right? And sort of look towards Last Wish, and Last Wish, you know, cuts a glance over to Anar and says,
Caretaker, this one understands your trepidation. The curses are a fearsome and powerful lot, but this one assures you the corruption has left this soul. This one itself has purged it clean at the waters of hope, just a short distance from here. And you can see the caretaker sort of like look, it's like cycloptic eye back towards Anar, and sort of like look up and down as if scanning them for sort of like any sort of weaknesses, you know, because the caretakers are exactly that. Like, they are protecting a beacon, letting the curse that just almost destroyed this place back in. Seems like a breach of security protocol. And sort of looks back towards Last Wish. And how can you be sure? If the spirit has fallen prey to the doom of the Veil once, what is to say it cannot do so again? What is to say that it is not waiting to be led here into the temple under the influence of the doom to strike again when we are unaware? And Anar sort of almost takes like what's the word? Not a triumphant step, like a defending his honor. You know, it takes a step forward. But Last Wish like holds a hand forward, not wanting the situation to escalate, and says, Caretaker, we are both of us indebted to the Protectors. We are their guides, their hands in this world. This spirit, once cursed, is free, and now our charge. Please, do not turn him away. He has already suffered much. Is it not our duty to ensure that this suffering ends?
I guess I'm gonna have to try to convince the caretaker that they should let Anar in. Okay. I'm going to pull up my handy dandy stuff. Ooh, and a king. Okay. A king is a tough thing to get past in this game. A king is a 13. Okay. So let's take a look. We got this. We got this. Let's re-roll our die. Let's roll. Let's hope for some high rolls. I'm gonna roll twice. Ooh, those weren't very high. Okay, so we got a total of 7 because I'm using our patience, which is a +2, which means we're at least higher than 1. So it's shade. It's a partial success. A partial success. Okay. What does a partial success to me mean? What does a partial success mean to me is what I mean to say right here. So I'm gonna say, does Anar get let in? Possible success. So does that mean that Anar must prove themselves, you know, before they are allowed entry? He's allowed entry. Is that what that means? Let's take a look at, so we have theme, we have events. Maybe an event. Maybe that's like the task that the caretakers give. Let's see. And the caretaker studies Anar, and actually I'm gonna roll this first and see what I get before I start speaking out of turn. We got a 4 and a 4. 4 and a 4. We got theme, justice, or exploit. I like justice more than exploit. So how does Anar find justice for the caretakers? He's a tracker. There's a part of me that wants, or maybe is it helping them? No, because repairing the damage would mean they would have to go back in. Okay, I have an idea. He's a tracker. The caretaker looks over to Anar and looks back at Last Wish and says, "This one's face is familiar. I believe we had helped inter its husk long ago. Anar, your name is." And Anar sort of, you know, feeling very examined, you know, by this alien being, I think rightly unnerves Anar to a great extent, but also kind of recognizes that he's trying to parlay and negotiate his ultimate fate with, like, beings that are far beyond his comprehension or probably his ability to deal with without the intervention of of Last Wish, and says, "Yes, I am Anar, a tracker, at least in life." And the caretaker nods its head. "Yes, one who finds things. An important skill indeed." And, like, looks over to Last Wish. "You know more than most that many of the places that were sacred to the Protectors, the Temple of the Firelights, this sanctuary of the Caretakers, were lost when the doom of the Veil settled its long shadow over Penumbra and extinguished the beacon's flame. There are things precious to the Caretakers, to the Protectors, to the work of the guides such as ourselves, which are still lost in these corrupted wastes." looks over to Anar. If you would prove that you are no longer under the doom's influence, that you wish to help other spirits like you, and earn your salvation, as you say that you do, you will help us find one of these artifacts, these lost tools of the Protector's will. And Last Wish, almost wanting to like stand up for Anar for a moment, takes a step forward. Caretaker, please, this one has just awakened from, and like the caretaker raises a hand. We are all given tasks that we are unprepared for, Firelight. You know this more than anyone. We must protect these beacons. We must ensure those that approach them will not harm them and are free of any influence that would undo them. And looks back to Anar. Travel with the Firelight, Anar the Tracker. Find for us a piece of the histories of the Protectors. A relic, a treasure once lost that could be instrumental to our task here. And you will be given entrance to our sanctuary and to the fires that you seek. And with this, Anar, another look of determination across his face, maybe emboldened a bit by standing next to Last Wish. Looks at Last Wish maybe as if looking for an answer for a moment, but then realizes that this is not something that Last Wish can do for him. This is something that he has to do for himself. Looks back towards the caretaker with like a newfound gusto and says, if this is what it takes to ensure that I earn your trust, then it is what I will do. It is a small ask, given everything that I've done to you and your ilk here in Penumbra in my confused state. He says sort of like as politely as he can about, his previous situation. Last Wish sort of watches Anar adopt this new responsibility with equal parts like awe and respect, and also, perhaps like there's a bit of like a sadness, perhaps he was expecting more of the caretakers, maybe expecting them to have more of a bleeding heart, but then again, Last Wish is just awoke to this world and feels compelled to help everyone as much as he can. The caretakers have lived in this corrupted Vale, right? They've lived through the fall of the spirit world. They've lived through the doom of the Vale. Perhaps their caution is not out of like any sort of like deeper-seated hatred, but it's more just like a survival instinct, like maybe this isn't the first time something like this has happened, and who is Last Wish to say that the caretakers are wrong when they have protected their sanctuary for untold amount of years, and he just woke up essentially like the other day, So I think there is a part of him that has to give in to their request. If this is what you require of the spirits, caretakers, so be it. This one will walk with Anar, and assure that he has earned his place in your eyes, and he will be led back to the Protectors, as he is destined to do. And the caretaker, solemnly bows its head. So long as Anar walks in your shadow, Firelight, I do not doubt it. but it must be a path that is walked before he is granted entrance. And with that, sort of turns its back, doesn't even wait for them to respond, as it like shuffles back to its duties. And like there's almost this moment of like they're standing right at the edge of the tunnel, right? Like they're staring into the precipice of the temple. They can probably see like the golden red aura of the beacon from like where they're standing. They're so close and yet they're so far, you know. It's like painful. And perhaps Anar sees that. Perhaps Anar can even look at the beacon from where he's standing, and there is just like a retch in his chest because he can like taste salvation. It's like nearly there, but denied like right at the last second. And Last Wish will sort of lean in close, you know, like sort of shoulder to shoulder with Anar.
This is only a temporary misstep, Anar. I will ensure you. This one will ensure you find your peace. It is my duty. Now come. We have much ground to cover. The caretakers are patient, but the curses, they are relentless.
And like turns and begins to walk towards the tunnel with Anar at his side. Dang, so we walked all the way back here just to get turned away. Oh, that's harsh. That's harsh, man. So, does Anar get let in? Possible success. Not yet, but is promised entry if they can recover a relic of the protectors for the caretakers as proof of their loyalty and cleansed status. Loki says, such is life. Such is unlife. Such is death. Such is the spirit world of Penumbra and the Veil. Okay, so where does that lead us if we consult our map? Kind of takes us right back here. So we're on here. So moving forward, we can either head back to the Pond of Hope, or we can head to... what was the other place that we generated? There was the Pond of Hope. I think it was a grove. It was the glade. Sorry, not a grove, although very similar, a glade and a grove of freedom. Interesting. Let's see what the Oracle has to say. I think Anar and Last Wish. What is the difference between a glade and a grove? You know what? That is an excellent question. And I am tempted to find out. So let's open up another page here. Difference between a glade and a grove. Because now I am curious. Oh. It says... a glade is an open passage through a wood, a grassy or open cleared space in a forest, whereas a grove is a small forest or an orchard of fruit trees. So I guess a grove is more like it's a space that is littered with trees, whereas a glade has a path or a space, a clearing in those trees. So similar, but slightly different. That is from WikiDiff, which I assume means the Wikipedia of differences. Ailing says, oh, okay, grove is a space of greenery and a glade is a clearing. Yeah, nice. Look at this. The stream is educational. Yes, stay for therapy. Come for therapy, Mantis. Stay for the expansion of your vocabulary. Because that's what we're really here for. Okay. So I think what Last Wish is going to do as they're walking with Anar is maybe consult the protectors again. You know, Last Wish entered a meditative state to commune with the protectors to find out which path that they should take before that helped led them to the hollow, which became Anar. Perhaps now, they can use the same meditative gesture to maybe point them in the direction of this relic, you know, this piece of proof that they'll need to help to my brain to help free Anar's spirit. Oh, also one thing, I'm kind of doing this backwards, but one thing that I did want to do, although let me take a look at that. Okay. One thing that I did want to do is I wanted to search for treasures in the pond before I left. I think I'm going to do this retroactively, although depending on what I roll here, I might have to retroact some other effects, but we'll see. But I do want to search for a treasure. This won't be the relic, right? This is just something that is like important, or at least for the buy information mechanic to the game. So we got an 8 and a 3. Let's grab our dice, and then let's roll twice. 12, so that is higher than both. So we find 2 treasures. So we can say easy peasy. We find 2 treasures our first time through the pond. But what is the treasure? The treasures in our game so far have been physical manifestations of spiritual aspects of the world, of the purposes of the place that we find them in. And so if we're finding this in the Pond of Hope, what I imagine that these 2 treasures are is, I think, or actually, either one of 2 things that this could be. Well, why don't we say it's one of both? We'll split the difference. So we have 2 treasures. I'd say one treasure is actually a chunk of the Hollow's carapace, right? That's got to be worth something to someone. You know, the slain hide of the armor-like form of a Hollow that's like slowly melting away. Probably some bits don't fully decompose. So we have a Hollow carapace chunk. That seems like something someone would want to trade in, you know, a rarity. The other thing that I think is more, you know, aligned with what we've been describing the treasures as being so far is, you know, the pond is a place where people reflect and where they commune with like the spirit of hope and the threads of fate that are written in the stars. So I think we find kind of like a, you know, like a river stone. Well, actually, no, this isn't a river. Huh? It's a pond. So perhaps it is. Perhaps it is a piece of the stone. We did narrate that when we were fighting the Hollow before it became Anar, like knocked us around, and I think it actually cracked off a piece of the statue, right? So I think what we have now is a piece of the Statue of Hope. And I think when you sort of turn the stone in your hand and you look at the bits of the rock which would not be visible from the outside, right? Because it's been cracked open, right? It's almost like a geode on the inside of like starlight. It's like an infinite, like you look into like the crystalline inside of the geode, but it just looks like a starry expanse. And depending on how you turn it, you know, you see different constellations and you see the stars telling you a different story. So a geode inside of crystalline starlight. Ooh, yeah, Loki says, ooh, pretty. I think so. Yeah, one ugly treasure and one pretty treasure. One, like, armored, half-melted, blackened husk of Hollow, and then, like, a geode of infinite starlight. Pretty. And gross. So we'll say we found 2 treasures before we left. That may be useful in the future. We'll see. Okay. So let's commune with the protectors And let's see if we can't figure out. So we have to ask them a question, which is kind of answered in yes or no's. So I guess the question should be, do we continue down the path of the Pond of Hope? Right? Is that the correct path to lead us to Anar's salvation? Right? So, we're going to draw 2 cards. A 7 and a 9. And we're also going to say it's just about as likely to be yes or no, so we'll just give it a +1, as opposed to taking one of our approaches. So we'll roll twice. That is an 8, plus a 1 is a 9. So it's only a partial success, right? Because it has to be higher than both to be a full success, but it actually matches, it ties the 9 and is higher than the 7. So it's only a partial success. So the answer is yes, but, which is interesting. Okay, so let's go back here. So we are at the journey. So is this the path forward for Anar's salvation? The answer may surprise you. Why is this doing, oh no. Also, you can see that I literally can't type. Oh no, I got it mostly right. Is this the path forward for Anar's salvation? The answer is yes, but, ... But do we know why it's a yes, but? I mean, I know why it's a yes, but, wink. We don't have Mochi in chat to make all the dirty jokes, so I have to fill in. So let's figure out. Let's maybe use the theme or the event. Maybe we'll use event. Sounds like a good, like a yes, but there's a reason why there's a but. I feel like that might be an event. So we'll give it a shot. We're gonna roll twice on our thing here, which is a 3 and a 3. So that is a 3 and a 3. Sabotage. Yes, but. Sabotage. Listen, oh, yo, it's a sabotage! Chun-chun. 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 I can't stand it. I know you planned it. This is the the moment where I just break into Beastie Boys. Yeah, thank you, Stella, for the headbang. Yeah, I just break into a small bit of Beastie Boys to keep us going. You beat me, says, were you about to type the same thing, Loki? Listen, oh, yo, it's a sabotage. Okay, so it's a sabotage. But what is it sabotaging? Also, that implies that sabotage implies that it's an internal thing. So it's the way. So will be a relic of the protectors. That is the way forward, but it's also sabotaged. Ooh, okay. Perhaps, okay. So, Last Wish, my brain, is walking, actually, we'll say they take a moment to rest, right, sort of taking maybe this is the moment where they're sitting by, like, a fire, which, like a little campfire, which, Last Wish can just conjure, sort of, like, leans their staff down, and then there's like a flare of light, and it emanates, and so they're both taking a moment to sit and inspect, maybe even, Anar is turning, the geode over in their hands, inspecting the starlight, finding that same sense of calm and hope that was found when they were staring at the constellations at the pond proper. Quality bonding time, exactly. And I think, like, in this meditative state, the moth-like antennae are sort of twitching in the air, and the ember-like bioluminescent markings across the carapace are undulating like embers, as, the sort of leathery film of the eyelids are closed and sort of like in this other, spiritual realm. And, Last Wish is communing, protectors.
Heed this one's call. I have one of your faithful... This one has one of your faithful spirits in tow, and must find a piece of your history in order to earn its salvation. Help this one guide Anar. Is this the way forward? What can you tell us?
And there is once again that reverberating sense, that feeling when almost the unseen and unblinking eyes of the protectors are on Last Wish. And there's that choir of voices, right? Not just one, but multiple voices talking at once. Some in languages that we do understand and some that we don't, some that are like the tongue of the spirits. And says, there is a piece of our shared and storied history, like all around us. It is beyond the pond where you recovered the soul of lost Anar, all around us. However, you should know that it is guarded, that it comes from a place of darkness. And, in our minds, Last Wish says, darkness? How could a piece of the protectors have a dark origin? And this is where the sabotage comes into play. Last wish. You have heard the name. The Doom of the Veil. Doom of the Veil. It is time that you learned the truth of what the Doom truly is. All around us. And then there's like a sort of a flash of realization that kicks behind the eyes of Last Wish. Vivi, all fire casts a shadow. That is true, Stella, and I think that is the route we're going to be aiming with this Protectors dynamic. As Last Wish says, Protectors, you cannot mean that the Doom of the Veil is... And then, like, almost like our words are stopped in our very chests as we feel the pressure of the Protectors once again falling on us. It shall be revealed to you in time, Last Wish. But not here. Not now. Go. Journey forward, and all shall be revealed. And then it, like, leaves us. So, and we sort of gasp. Our eyes crack open, and I think, whoa! The young king, 45, has followed with the metal blaring in the background. Thank you so much for following us. Your time and energy is so appreciated. I am flattered that you are enjoying our story tonight. If this is your first time with us, I hope to see you again, but thank you. My goodness, my heart. So I think our eyes crack open and we gasp. And, I think Anar almost like fumbles the stone in their hands, sort of like taken aback by our sudden awakening. It might even lean forward and like put a hand on our shoulder, like steady us before we like tumble into the flame. Not that I think it would even affect us, really. We're probably impervious to the Protector's fire. And says, Last Wish, are you okay? Are you steady yourself? And like, Last Wish grabs her chest and like plants the staff into the ground, like helps anchor themselves before they completely fall over.
This one is fine, Anar. This one thanks you for your kindness. You've no need to worry.
But like, I think Anar can even see whenever we say there's no need to worry, there is a bit of untruth ringing across Last Wish's face. Did you see something in your vision? Did you see something that I should know about?
This one saw nothing, Anar. It is sometimes taxing to commune with the protectors. This one apologizes for startling you.
And like just sort of like tugs my red cloak a bit closer. The implications of the Doom of the Veil sabotaging the protectors and then somehow having a shared history absolutely shakes Last Wish to their core. But there's very little that Last Wish can do about it now. So sabotage, possible shared history of the Doom of the Veil and the Protectors? Question marks? Okay, so we don't really exactly know what the sabotage is yet, but we know that there is sabotage, and we know that it has to do with the piece of the history, the relics of the Protectors. So there's a lot to unpack there, but what we do know is the way forward, and that is to continue along the original path that we had set off of the Pond of Hope, which is here, which is the Ace of Clubs. Okay. I'm wondering... Okay, so we have to walk back through the Ace of Clubs, the Pond of Hope to get to our next area. I'm almost wondering if Last Wish begins to lead like a caravan of spirits. You know, because there are some spirits that are at the pond who are regaining themselves. Would they... We'll leave it up to the Oracle, you know. Are the spirits in a state where they can be guided, or are they still too fractured for us to corral them? You know, can we shepherd them? Do they have the ability to be shepherded in this moment, or are they still, you know, lost to their wanderings? I'm gonna draw 2 cards, a 6 and an 8, and I'm gonna roll. I'm gonna say it's +1. It's just as unlikely as it to be unlikely. Answer from the Oracle. Roll. So I got a 7 plus a 1 is an 8. So I tie. So upon darkness is no and. So unfortunately, no and what? No and... I'm gonna roll here just to give me some inspiration. 6 and a 5. Protect. Okay. So no and protect. So yeah, I think at this point, we walk back through the Pond of Hope, and there's a part of Last Wish who thinks, you know, I'm trudging forward. This one is trudging forward. Perhaps we'll find another beacon or some way that we can help the other spirits. But when we find the spirits who were at the pond, they are largely still wrapped up in their ritual that they were doing, their cleansing ritual. Many of them are still fractured. Many of them are still in their protective state, their prayerful state that they were like emulating from the other statues that were like sort of bent in supplication to the star statue. And with the word protect, you know, I definitely think that there is, you know, the spirits were drawn here for a reason, even if they weren't entirely fully cognizant of why. And I think now that the hollow is gone, some of them have adopted this idea that the pond needs to be guarded from other threats, you know? So I think while some of them are bathing and they're doing their ritual of cleansing and they're praying and they're reading the stars, I think some of them, especially the ones that have begun to recollect more of them themselves and their full cognizance, have sort of taken a sort of a watchful guard over the perimeter of the pond. And Last Wish, approaches and says,
"This place is one of healing, to be sure, but it will not help you cross to the other side. You'll need a beacon for this. You'll need the aid of a firelight. This one, Last Wish, humbly offers their services to guide you to the fires, should you desire." A bunch of the spirits who are sort of half-formed but regaining themselves, look to each other, their bodies and their faces still partially mist-like as they look back towards Last Wish.
"We already lost these waters once. We cannot do so again. It is helping those like us reclaim their souls, their minds. It must be kept safe. There will be a time for us to follow the beacons, to cross, but that time is not now. Thank you, Firelight, but we cannot march. Not yet."
And Last Wish, wanting to respect their wishes, solemnly bows.
As you will it. This one shall return when the beacons are lit. And this one shall see that you are delivered to the other side. Come, Anar.
And turns and beckons Anar towards the path as they march ever onward. So let's generate a new zone. That's exciting. We're going to discover a region. So when we discover a region, we look at our map, we take an action plus an approach. Once again, I know I default to patient, but that is just how Therapy Mantis works. Therapy Mantis is a patient boy. We are going to draw 2 cards. Am I going to get a face card? No, darn it. No beacon for us quite yet. But let us discover region. So, roll on the table. Am I doing this right? Exploring the world. When you add a new region, the corner of your card needs to connect to the other region's corner. To know whether region you are adding is located above. Oh yeah, we have to do this part first. The discover region section. So we pull the cards, we roll the die. Clover again. I know we are pulling a lot of clovers, huh? But not face cards. Let's roll. So we got a 7 plus a 2. This is actually higher than both results, because an ace in Firelights is a 1. So we actually got a full success here. So when we discover a region, we take an action plus an approach. We add 2 cards to the map. Now we reference here to see how the cards are added. So if the number on the new card is higher, okay, so we have to take a look at where we are and where we're going. We are at the Ace of Clubs. If it is higher than the one on your current location, place the card above. If the number on the card is lower, and if it is the same... Okay, so this is interesting because technically a 3 is higher, right? Which would mean it would have to go above, right? But, there's no... Maybe it can go here? The corner of your card needs to connect to another region's corner. So I guess this would be here, right? So it kind of creates a little circular path, which is interesting. So we kind of find a new region that's in between here. I'm going to assume that's how it works. But the ace is actually the same. That's what I'm hearing. Yeah, Joe, that's what I'm hearing too. I'm gonna go with that. But the ace is actually of the same value, which means it goes beside the first card. So that's going to go here. So this is our, wow, this side of the map is getting really thick, getting real heavy. All right, so now what we're going to do is, we know this is the way forward, but now we have multiple locations to go. Let's generate some descriptors for this place. So what do we have? We have the ace of diamonds and the 3 of clubs. So I'm gonna add ace of diamonds, and 3 of clubs. Now let's generate some descriptors for these locales. I'm gonna roll some die. I'm gonna go 1, 2. So this is, actually I'm gonna roll a bunch. So 2, 4 are the mountains. Sick. The mountains of 1, 3. The mountains of money? The mountains of wealth? I mean, that kind of sounds like a place where we'd find a relic, right? I'm just gonna say it. Mountains of money. Money, 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 money! So that's the 3 of clubs. Mountains of money. I'm gonna say abundance. Wealth. Because I don't really know. Passive Spy says it's like Greenland, Iceland. Perhaps. I don't know if money, you know, is directly valuable in this world. But, you know, abundance, wealth. I'm kind of getting that idea, you know, where like pharaohs were buried with their treasures because they think it could be useful in the afterlife kind of deal. So it's more symbolic wealth than like actual wealth. But, you know, I think that's a cool concept to play with. So we'll write that down for now. But now we have the ace of diamonds. Which I have to roll another... Oh. As I pull up my keychain access. Don't look there. I'm going to roll 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's a 1 and a 5, which is the tree. I like these new zones we're getting. Trees and mountains are very, like, you can do a lot with it. The tree of what? The tree of life. The circle of life. 3 and 3. The tree of time? Whoa! The tree of time. That sounds cool as hell. I don't know what it looks like. I don't know what it does. But I'm already getting some ideas because the Tree of Time sounds sick. Okay, the Tree of Time and the Mountains of Wealth. Man, these are cool zones. I really dig that. I'm already having such, like, grand thoughts, you know, impress themselves upon my mind hearing these words. Okay. So, I guess what we should ask the Oracle is... which one of these locations is the one that is going to lead us to the relic, which we will need for Anar, right? Now, like I said, my initial reaction is the Mountains of Wealth, because once again, that sounds like a vault. It sounds like a place where important things go, right? So that's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say, when you want a yes or no question answered, you give it a +2 if it's likely, right? So I'm going to say it is very likely that the relic is there, but we'll still leave it open to interpretation, right? So I'm going to, once again, pull up my handy-dandy cards. I am going to draw 2 new cards. I'm going to click them. Okay, a 4 and a 7. I'm going to grab my dice. This is getting a +2 because I find that this is a very likely situation. So I'm going to go 1, 2, which is an 8, +2, 9, 10. So yes, my suspicions are confirmed. The Mountains of Wealth, the abundance, is in fact where we will find our relic. Ooh, I'm also having another idea. I'm going to open up my notes. Okay, so the Three of Clubs, the Mountains of Money. This is where the Relic of the Protectors is located. So we know that. Relic is in the Mountains of Wealth. Pass it on. No, don't tell everybody, Toddy. Then Last Wish will not be able to get there in time. And we will doom Anar. We will doom Anar's soul.
His immortal soul, his eternal soul, your eternal reward,
as Jafar would say. So here's something that I'm just having an idea about. So some of you may recall that we met this creature. Imagine a snitch dooming Anar's soul. Yeah, that would be the worst way to go out. Like, you just get suckered by a snitch. Somebody steals the relic before you. Poor Anar, after being unwormed into a real boy. So we actually met one of these creatures before here, the Collectors. Now, the Collectors in the fiction of our world are these sort of neutral spirit entities that scour the realm and collect important objects, treasures, trinkets, and information, right? They they go out, they find things, and they'll trade them to others, right? To increase their collection and their knowledge and to, find newer and rarer and cooler things. Maybe the Mountains of Wealth are kind of like the base of operations for the Collectors, Maybe this is kind of like their vault where they keep all of these, secret things. I kind of like the idea of that. I also kind of like the idea that the Collectors are just kind of entirely rogue agents, right? That they are kind of beholden to no one and they just wander endlessly as well. I like both of those ideas. I could see both of them being equally plausible. So maybe this is another thing that we leave up to fate to decide. So are the Mountains of Wealth the base of operations for the Collectors, right? And so when I'm going to say it's just as likely to be one or the other, so I'll just give it a +1, which if you can't see because of my chat window, there it is right here. Get an answer from the Oracle. If it's just as likely to be yes or no, it's just a +1 to your die roll. So I'm going to go back here. I am going to click. I'm going to click. Ooh, a Jack is actually a pretty high card. Damn it. Every time you draw a face card in a challenge and not making a map zone, you feel it so hard. Because it's like, that could have been a beacon. And now it's not a beacon. Now it's a zone. Which is still a cool thing to have. But I would have liked for it to be a beacon. Okay. So what am I gonna do? A Jack is worth what? 11, which is still very, very high. So let's roll 2 die. So we get a 1 plus, an 8 plus a 1 is 9, which we consult here. All right, so it's higher than one of them, which means the answer is yes, but. We keep getting a lot of yes buts this game, making us really work for our answers. So are the mountains the base of operations for the Collectors? The answer is yes, but what does yes but mean? That has been the I think the if I could sum up this episode in a series of questions, it would be what does yes but mean to me? I'm gonna go to here, and I am going to roll. I'm actually gonna roll. I'm gonna go for a theme or event, right? And one of these two are gonna be the right one for us. I'm gonna let fate decide. I'm gonna see which one speaks to me more. I'm gonna roll twice. We got a 6 and a 2. We got a 6 and a 2. Sacrifice and help. So yes, it is the base of the collectors, but something about it affects the story in a way that implies either sacrifice or help. Ooh, interesting. What could that mean? Or we could take both together. Sacrifice help. Or help to sacrifice. I don't think the collectors are that dark. I don't think they're sacrificing anything. Perhaps it is. Perhaps it is, but you know, let me check how the buy information thing works again. Oh, and then I also got a note from one of our previous viewers let me know that there's actually been an update to how the buy information thing works. So it's actually now vague information, precise information, or outstanding information, as opposed to accurate, vague, or bad. When I hear help and sacrifice, I'm hearing donations, I'm hearing tithes, right? I'm hearing like alms. I think the collectors wouldn't let anybody in if they weren't able to pay. You know, the collectors aren't going to let anyone through the gates if if they can't offer something to the vault, you know, in exchange for what lies within, what information will lie within. They require sparkly, shiny, says Stella. Yes, they do. The shinies must be given. So I think that's what we're gonna go with. I think we're gonna go with the journey. Yes, but we're gonna say help, sacrifice. The collectors aren't interested in helping souls. They are interested. They're interested in artifacts, information, trinkets, etc. Luckily for us, we did just pull 2 new artifacts. So let's see. If we're okay, the Mountains of Abundance. So what I think this looks like. Get a little water in me as I halfway down this water bottle, which is vital to my existence. When I think of the Mountains of Abundance, once again, yeah, I'm getting this idea that it's like a tomb. Maybe it is like almost like a ziggurat, you know, like a pyramid, but it's like it's built into the mountain, right? It's not built like in a historically accurate way. It's like this triangular spire of mountainous stone that is chiseled with like those ancient spirit runes and symbols, and it is very much like a tomb. You know, I think the collectors, when a lot of these spirits, you know, shuffle off their mortal coil, and, you know, the caretakers create the husks, you know, I think a lot of the spiritual residue that the spirits leave behind, you know, the things that we've learned, like through the crystallized tears, the collector's sense when like souls shuffle off and like leave behind treasures that manifest in the spirit plane, and so they go and they seek them out and they collect them. So I do feel like it is like part tomb in the sense that it is sort of interring. It's like a museum, right? It's like a place where artifacts of the deceased and like the spiritual manifestations of their time in the world manifest, and they're collected and they're brought there for like display, but also prominence. I think the collectors take a certain amount of faith in this. But I think it is also like a vault, you know? And so I think there's like this winding zigzag path up very treacherous mountainous steps off of, you know, this, through these like jagged mountain peaks. And there's one sort of central, you know, spire, which upon closer inspection just looks like a massive mountain, but it is actually, like I said, more like a ziggurat, and it does have these like spiritual symbols carved into the stone. And I think this zigzagging path leads to, sort of a big, disc, like a door, you know, this like big circular golden door, because of course it's gold, because they're the collectors and they're fancy. So, you know, this like big, that seems to be locked by some, you know, completely unknown means. And I think, Last Wish and, Anar, we hike our way through the mountain passes. We, actually, let's see. We'll confront risk on this. We'll say it's not without setback. You know what I mean? Like, this is a treacherous mountainside, which is, you know, I will also say, because the doom of the veil has, you know, corrupted the spirit world, you know, the stones are jagged, they're loose, they're partially crumbling. There's probably bits of them that are fraying and fracturing, like we described how some of the towers, that held the stories of redemption in the fields of redemption, some of the stonework like was cracking off and like levitating on its own accord, because like the foundation of the spirit world is kind of becoming more lax, you know? I think that also is happening with the mountains. And so there's, you know, all the usual dangers you would face while scaling a mountain, you know, landslides and rock falls and all that stuff. But then also mountains that are like, their gravity is actively being like destabilized, and like portions of the stone are like kind of moving on its own accord and might give out at any moment if like the powers that be, you know, the spirit power that the doom of the veil is corrupting like gives out, you know? Or perhaps that even that the doom of the veil can will. We don't know how much control the doom of the veil can exert over the spirit world now that it's been, you know, kind of condemned by it. Maybe it can just sort of will the stone to hurt us. Who knows? But I think climbing this place does warrant a confronting of risk. I think it is dangerous enough to do that. So I will do that. And I will draw. Whoop. Cards are going nuts. So, oh, another face. Bruh, you're gonna give me 2 face cards, 2 possible beacons when I am confronting danger? Are you trying to murder me? Are you trying to murder me, game? Are you trying to murder me dead? Jeez, that's rough. That is rough. Blech. Okay, so I'm gonna roll. I mean, I have to roll. I mean, we are being a patient climber because we don't know it's giving out yet. So we're gonna roll. A 10 plus 2 is 12, which is only higher than 1 card. Kings are worth 13, which is a partial success. Okay. So what does a partial success look like? I think a partial success... Oh no. I have an idea, but I don't like what my idea is. My idea for a partial success is, okay, so we're climbing, we are, and we know that we're going to need the treasures to help buy our way into the vault. Like, we know the collectors are not going to let us in there for free. So we're climbing our way up, and, you know, a part of the stone breaks free underneath our grasp. Or, like, perhaps, like, one of the floating stones, like, around us, like, smashes into the mountainside and scatters rocks and debris across us, which loosens our grip and Anar's grip. And, you know, Last Wish starts skidding and like takes their staff and like jams it into the stonework, and sort of it scrapes down the rock until like it finds like a foothold and like sticks them there. But Anar is like falling for a moment, and as they're in free fall, Last Wish, yells like Anar, and like lurches forward and like grabs their hand, his hand. But as they do so, their cloak is flying open. They've just fallen a couple of feet. All of their gear is like rustling about, and I think there's a chance that we may lose some of our goodies, before we get to the top of the mountain. So let's see. How would I do this? Let's see. Or actually, we can evade danger right here. This is normally used for fights, but I think we can use it in this scenario as well, because this would give us fatigue. So we still get to the top, but partial success. Should we avoid danger, or should we get an answer from the Oracle? Let's do an answer from the Oracle, because now that I'm reading this, confront risk would have given me a fatigue point, right? But we got past it. Evading danger would also mark us fatigue, possibly even more than confronting the risk, which doesn't make sense narratively, right? Like, we shouldn't have to mark more fatigue than we normally would have by confronting risk, right? Which is these rules here. I'm going to move my thing for chat. So I think instead I'm going to answer the Oracle. So, do we lose one of our treasures during the tumble that we need to pay our collector friends? So I'm going to draw 2 cards. We got a 6 and a 6. I'm going to say that it is just as likely as it is not likely that we lose one of our treasures. Here's what I'm going to say. The first question is, do we lose at least one of our treasures? So I'm going to roll twice. 1, 2. Ooh, that's not good. So it's a 5, which is lower than both. Okay. Do we lose both of our treasures? So I'm going to say... do I say it's unlikely? So we're definitely losing one. It's a partial success. So I'm going to say it's unlikely that we lose both. I'm going to say it's unlikely that we lose both. So I'm going to roll 2 things. So that is a +2, 10. Yes, but. Okay. So I think the yes, but we still lose one. Okay, I think that is the narrative that we're going to go with. So... okay, which one is it going to be? I'm going to say, if I roll a 1, it's the carapace. If it's a 2, it's the geode. The carapace. Okay, so, yes, we are climbing the mountain. There is suddenly, maybe I'm going to go with the fact that perhaps the Doom of the Veil maybe has some sort of dark influence over this world that we can't necessarily define yet. And like, there's been a flash of red light in the eyes of the curses every time they are exerted control over, right? And there's this constant sort of like twilight in the sky. It's partially blue and purple. It's partially orange. Like, the world is right between sunset and sun up, right? And with like the stars in the sky. But as we're climbing, there's almost like a rumble of thunder above our heads, and the sky flashes like that same red for a moment. And you can almost hear in the distance, like in that thunderous rumble, a smoky sort of snickering laugh. And then suddenly there's a flash of red in the crevices of the stone, crashes open as it explodes around us, giving a free our footing. We fall, we grab our staff, we stick it in, we reach for Anar, we grab Anar, but in the process of grabbing Anar, slipping out of our cloak, tumbles out that shining chunk of obsidian I always want to say chitin, but I think it's chitin when you're talking about like insectoid armor. Shell of the hollow, which slips out of our cloak, and you can see Anar even tries to reach for it, but it just... Actually, no, I don't think Anar would reach for it. I think if it was the geode, he would, but I don't think he wants to be anywhere near the hollow carapace, because that's, like, probably very triggering for him. So I think, like, the carapace, like, falls, and Anar, like, you know, holding our arm, almost, like, sort of dodges out of the way, and you just watch it, like, sink into the darkness. You hear it, like, clatter off of a few stones, and then it disappears out of eyesight. And, you know, there's a heavy weight that sort of rolls through Last Wish, knowing that probably would have been very valuable to the collectors had we had that as a bargaining chip, but it is no longer in our possession now. And so finally, like, Last Wish, like, you know, sort of like one arm on the staff, one arm on Anar, like, manages to hoist Anar up over onto, you know, a new precipice of the stone. And Anar then reaches down and grabs Last Wish hand over hand, pulls them up over the lip of the stone, and they both clamber on top of like a flat surface, and they're both sort of like breathing heavily, like, you know, collecting themselves. Last Wish, are you all right?
This one survives another day, Anar, thank you.
As, you know, puts his staff on the ground and hoists himself back up to his feet, and sort of takes one sort of forlorn long glance over the edge of the stone to peer into the chasm where the treasure has just fallen. What will we do without that treasure? Maybe the collectors, they won't.
That is a problem that we will face when it is before us, Anar. Do not worry. So long as the protectors guide our steps, we will find a way into that vault.
And come. And they march, and they are going to head in the direction of the great golden door that stands between them and the vault of the collectors, the mountains of wealth. And I think at the 2.5 hour mark, I think that is where we're going to call it for tonight. I think that is a very good cliffhanger moment. You know, standing. We were actually on a cliffhanger for a moment. If I was wise, I would have ended the stream with us literally hanging off a cliff into the darkness, but I wanted to get a better idea of where we were going to start next session. So I think standing right at the gate of the vault with the collectors, -1 treasure, I think is just a good narrative point to stop at. Joseph says, Passive Spy, are you enjoying this playthrough? I'm hoping you are. I mean, you're sticking around. So I hope you're enjoying the story being told. Stella says, good show, yo. Thank you. I'm trying my damnedest. You know, brain firing on all cylinders. Says, yeah and yes, says Passive Spy. Well, I thank you twice. Yeah. Yes. Yes! says Joe in increasing. Whoa! Stella! Subscribing with Prime! Let me move to our just chatting screen so we can have you all in full screen. Thank you so much. That is so kind. I appreciate you so much. It turns out I had an extra button to press, says Stella. Well, thank you for pressing it. Gosh, I am honestly just so taken aback anytime someone follows, anytime someone subscribes. Like, just the idea that people are out here and, like, being compelled to support the stream because of, you know, all these nerdy things in my brain and, like, the stories that I want to tell and the years of improv theater training. Like, it truly is just, like, I am beside myself sometimes with how awesome it is. It's a feeling that doesn't go away. Yeah, Stella, you should know. Also, everyone who's on stream right now who's still watching, shout out to Stella, who is also a streamer here on Twitch and has been at it a long time. So please check out their channel, their stream. They got a lot of content steaming and brewing, so please check them out. Toddy got beans in the chat. You make good stuff, says Loki. I'm hoping I do. Thank you. Stella says, what the hey, listen, one good turn deserves another. You know, you subscribe to me, I shout you out. We're all one big happy family here on the Twitch zone. But thank you so much for everyone who joined the stream tonight. I am, as always, so thankful for your time and your energy for sticking out, the couple of hours that we tell stories together here. What is here? Where is here? This is Level 1 Adventuring, if you're brand new. Who are we? We are primarily an RPG and ttrpg channel. We play RPG video games like Celesta. We play tabletop games like the game we played tonight, Firelights by FariRPG. That's a solo game. And we also play group games too. We got Fall of Magic going on. We got D&D going on. So lots of stuff for you to check out in future episodes. If you miss anything on our Twitch stream, speaking of episodes, follow us on YouTube. We upload all of our episodes there, so if you miss something or you need to recap before the next session, even though I usually do that anyway, but if you want to see it live-ish again, YouTube is where to go. Level 1 Adventuring, as always. Our socials should be linked, our link tree somewhere here. And speaking of socials, join the Discord if you're not there already. We chat, we share, stories about games. We're also building it to be a play-by-post space for D&D soon. Secret. So you can come join us. It's set in the world of where the Level 1 Adventuring campaign takes place, so there'll be lots of cool things for you to see. What else? Shout out to Streamspell and Streamlabs for all of the digital elements that you saw tonight. Affiliate link down below if you want to upgrade your streams as well. And shout out to Tabletop Audio for the spooky atmospheric sounds that were blessing your ears while I was rambling on about Therapy Mantis. And you know what? Shout out to FariRPGs and RPD for making this game, for continuing to be an advocate for our stream, always reposting us, always uplifting the links in their Discord as well. So please support them, follow them. FariRPGs on Twitter, on their Discord. They got great stuff. They have other games coming out soon too, which I'm probably going to play because RPD has been so cool about just working with us, which has been really neat. And yeah. I think that's all I gotta say. I think that's all my usual plugs, plus a couple new plugs. But once again, I am so thankful that you are here in the chat, interacting with us. I hope you had fun tonight. I hope you're enjoying the story of Last Wish. Tonight was really twisty and turny. I did not expect to, get turned around so many times. When I was first playing the game, I wasn't initially seeing a lot of the Metroidvania-esque elements. I was seeing the map get built, but I didn't have a lot of reasons to go back anywhere, right? I was like, I'm just always kind of forging ahead. I didn't really have a reason to go back. But because of some of the random rolls and the oracles and just sort of following the inclinations of my mind with some of the prompts, this stream in particular, I was turned around a lot, Wasn't allowed to get back to the beacon. Wasn't allowed to, might not be allowed to get inside of the vault, depending on what happens in our next stream. So very interesting how the map progression and the prompts can sort of have your path kind of twist in on itself. So very interesting. Definitely a far different expression of the map and the system than we've seen in previous episodes. So just speaks to its robustness and flexibility, I suppose. World generation like that is fun, and it's getting my brain going for how it might work if I put it into Foundry, says Stella. Interesting. Yeah, I would love to see some sort of easily accessible tool for the map portion of this. I'm very, very luckily I found Deck of Cards to help me do this, but if you start running this, digitally for yourself, Stella, you're gonna probably notice there's no way to really save the state of this when you start a new session. So I kind of have to go through my deck of cards and rebuild this every time I play, which is really time consuming and tedious. But it's the only way to get a most accurate representation of what has happened beforehand. So yeah, if you find a way to make the map generation part of this game easier, a better system than deckofcards.com, I will be in your debt because that would be very useful for my purposes. Yeah, I noticed. I'll see what I can cobble together. I'll let you know, Stella. Well, thank you. Yeah, I won't hold you to the promise. Otherwise, I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. But I thank you so much. Anyway, Synergy, says Passersby, absolutely. As the level 1 construct shouts all of our commands in the chat. But I've rambled on enough. Y'all deserve some rest. I do as well. Thank you so much for joining us. We're not going to have a stream until next week. I think I'm going to take this Monday off. I'm trying to go 2 days, 3 days, 2 days, 3 days. Because I'm trying to get some other stuff done in life. Maybe once I figure that out, I'll go back to 3 days all the time. So we might not see each other until Tuesday. So Monday at the earliest, Tuesday at the latest. But we will not have a stream until next week. So I will miss you, but I will see you on all the other socials and on the Discord until then. And until then, be easy, be well. I'll love you. I miss you. I give you a pat on the head, give you a little pinch on the cheek. And I say, adieu, good day, and hope to see you next time. So I'm going to roll that beautiful outro. Have fun, y'all.